So I would like you to hear this case now, this case, and we try together to. George has lived the case; he knows the case. So.
Do you want me to read the whole thing, or just the general description?
Yeah. Just read it and give as vividly as possible the case.
Okay. Well, this fellow is he's a 22-year-old, slightly obese man from Lebanon, who was at the time I saw him a student. He says O level in Greece, hoping to go to England soon. He had to take exams and was hoping he could go to England to continue study, with the chief complaint of a horrible headache, which he'd had for 3 years. They would come and last for 1 to 2 weeks at a time, then go away for 3 to 4 days, then return for... he had seen a number of doctors with x-rays and had varying vague diagnoses, none very well confirmed, and with no adequate treatment. The current complaint of headache when I saw him was of pain in the temples. Sometimes it could be between the eyes and the central forehead, sometimes in the middle of the occiput, and in a band-type distribution, a vertical band, either in the front of the head or the back of the head. He could have all types of pain, from burning, electric shocks, to just what he called intolerable pain. Worse at night, such that he couldn't sleep, and he would also have it in the day. Worse lying down, and a little better sitting up. He complained of vertigo with the headache when he was standing or walking, that he said originally was better closing the eyes. Medicine, analgesics that he took really were to no avail. He says his headache is much worse with mental exertion, such that he can't think well or concentrate with the headache. He also complained of fatigue due to loss of sleep. His head was extremely heavy and he had trouble holding it up, and he complained of weakness in the whole body with this, but no trembling. Now, in terms of looking at him, it's very important the way he looked just sitting there, and the way he responded to efforts to think. He seemed very, very dull, very heavy, and slow to comprehend. At first I said, is this slowness to comprehend, or is it his English is poor? But his English was okay. He's very slow to respond to questions, always pressing the middle of his forehead with one finger when he was thinking, or rubbing his temples. And he, again, just emphasized how sluggish he looked. And when I'd ask him questions, he'd give very terse, very brief answers, like a minimum. It was obvious he wanted to move his mind the least possible. When I saw that, when I would see that, I would sort of deliberately, when he'd answer me vaguely to the symptom, I'd deliberately, castigating by asking the question more and more details. If you're being vague about this, what is it you mean? Is it that you're worse heat? Or you just, or you're worse cold? Is it the sun that bothers you, the heat of the room? Things like this to make me think. And in those points, he would just sort of like close his eyes and look tired. He'd squint. He'd like try to make the effort to think about the answer. And when he'd do it, he'd close his eyes and go like this, and then just within a few seconds quit. He'd just sort of go, like he just couldn't keep it up, and it was excruciating for him. Also, when he'd have to think, his face would flush a darkish red hue when he would try to think. And the impression one got is that he would just sit there, And if he weren't asked questions, he wouldn't really have very much to say. He said with the headache he'd be very angry, averse to conversation, strong desire to be alone, and if he moved, he'd want to move only very slowly. He'd be aggravated from sudden and fast motion. He was also sensitive to noise, and when the headache was bad, he'd feel like screaming. The headache began when he was a student in Iraq. He had taken exams periodically, and he had just flunked his second exam. He went on to flunk it a third time. And he said during the time in Iraq, with all these troubles in school, he was like generally very lazy, averse to thinking, with a strong inability to study was why he said he failed. And he said, quote, "I'd rather see a devil than a book." A few interests in TVs and movies and things like that. He didn't expect to get to England to business school because he figured he would fail again. He felt very terrible about it. He felt bad because his family had been supporting him through school, and he felt like he was continuing to fail them. And he said sometimes he feels so guilty and so embarrassed about it that he, would consider committing suicide. A good amount of sadness, and he had almost tears in the interview about having left his family, complaining of feeling often homesick. Capable of anger, but he wouldn't get roused to anger very much. I'd say sometimes he'd get angry, he can explode. He says he's closed, he never talks of his problems. He has, 2 years ago, much anticipatory anxiety before exams, but less in the past 2 years, though still there somewhat. Anxiety about the future, again because of his failures and concern that he would continue to do so. Anxious about the family, somewhat sympathetic, generally sloppy. The sadness and the occasional suicidal thoughts would come at night when he was alone. He said the only discouragement from suicide would be to show his gratitude to his family, and the thought that would occur to him now and then that he may be able to do some sort of other work, even if he flunked his exams. Strong sex drive, no fears, desires are better in the open air, averse to hot, stuffy rooms, tolerant of either temperature.
Could you slow down?
Huh?
Could you slow down?
Well, tolerant of either, not really worse either.
Tolerant or intolerant?
Tolerant of either. Photophobia and sunlight.
Could you go back to that last one?
Desires open air. Worse, averse hot, stuffy rooms. He'd sleep on his right side mostly.
Do you all understand
My English?
is this English?
I don't know how much the details of the case are important, but getting the sense of the image, eh?
We aren't able to do that underline because you're writing going too fast.
Yeah. You're giving it too fast, and I would like to shock this information. It's a typical case.
You'd like to what?
Shock into the brain.
Soak. Okay, he sleeps on the right side, sometimes on the left, predominantly the right side. Never on the back or abdomen. On 2 pillows. Feels okay on waking. Stays covered. A good amount of perspiration in hot weather. Quite thirsty for cool water. Frequent urination in the daytime. Strong appetite. With desires for sweets and salty 3 times, though sweets a bit more than salty. All of the following 2 times: meat, rice, chocolate, chicken, milk, cheese, bananas, coffee, and smoking tobacco. Fat once. Aversion, bread 3 times. The following twice: highly seasoned, fried eggs, raw onions, butter by itself. Once the fish. Sorry?
Why seasoned food and then what?
He also say as he sits there talking too, he would like sort of partially close his eyes. Like very often he just sort of sit there like, yes, think a bit. Just sort of flutter them a little bit. He's not a good lid flutterer. He said his headache was somewhat better from physical activity, but not violent exercise. He would prefer to do some small activity, like washing the clothes, which would distract him. Though, at the same time, he would say his headache would be bad from any exertion, like, again, moving from here to there. And the main problem he was studying for his second exam before the failure, when the headaches began, was that he would be distracted a lot and have daydreams and have significant mental fatigue.
Significant?
Mental fatigue.
Mental fatigue.
And he would say sometimes with the headache he would have a sense of intoxication, slight. He would get very angry when he tries to concentrate and the headache comes 3 times. Relatively indifferent to sex. Yeah, later it came out he was relatively indifferent to sex. One time, one thing, another. And he says, let's see. And he says he has an aversion to alcoholic drinks. Twice. Also his palms flush and get hot. Palms flush and get hot. So, that's essentially the case. He dislikes the hot sun, and at the beach he needs to cool off in the water often, twice.
Yeah. Okay. Worse in the night is underlined 3 times, can't sleep because of the headache, worse lying down 3 times, better closing the eyes 3 times, vertigo with headache when standing and or working, better closing the eyes 3 times. Head is heavy, can hardly hold it up 2.5 times. It's 2.5 times.
Heaviness is 3, can hardly hold it up is 2.
Oh. Okay. Can't think well or concentrate twice. Headache, worse mental exertion twice. Anxiety about future twice. Sympathetic twice. Sadness and suicidal thoughts worse in the night when alone twice. The only discouragement from suicide would be to show his gratitude to his family and the thought of doing some
other form of work, giving up his goal.
He wanted to show gratitude to his family for what they have done for him. Photophobia twice, thirsty 3 times. Desire sweets is 3 times, and aversion bread 3 times. The headache is constant, is 3 times with varying degrees of intensity.
Sorry?
The headache is constant with varying degrees of intensity. Constant underlined 3 times. Now, how you proceed to study such a case? In such a case, okay, I would like general ideas how you proceed in such a case as you heard. There are symptoms, local symptoms, which are strong. There are general symptoms, which are strong, mental, emotional symptoms, and there are desires and aversions, which are strong. It means constitutional symptoms, also strong. General symptoms, strong. Mental, emotional symptoms, strong. And local symptoms, strong. How do you proceed in such a case? You're treating a headache. He wants to be treated for his headaches and his general kind of state of mind, I believe. Because the way that George describes is not a very tip-top condition, his mind. So how do you proceed as a general idea when you have strong general symptoms, strong emotional, strong mental symptoms, strong local symptoms, general, emotional, and local?
Grade symptoms.
Great.
Grade symptoms. No simple one. What's that?
Yeah. Another one, another idea, what you do with such a case. Another idea? How you tackle such cases, yes?
I would tend to recognize in great detail, most almost entirely on black type and type only.
Yes.
Because of the strong eliminate all the...
Yeah. See what comes through the black types. Another idea, yes?
There's an essence indicates.
What the essence indicates. Another idea?
To examine the totality of the very strong symptoms.
Yes.
Since there are so many symptoms in general.
Examine the totality, whether there is a remedy that goes through the totality. Yes?
And then work from there.
Yes.
How it progressed to that point, how it started and the progression of pathology.
How?
Yeah. Well, for example, this started after much mental strain.
Yes, mental strain, yes.
So to go back and see how the case developed, to try and get some idea of the importance of the symptoms.
No, I did not ask that. I said with a case where you have strong symptoms, general symptoms, mental symptoms, local symptoms, desires, aversions, when you have that, then what you have to do?
In this case, I look strongly at the mental and emotions because he's so badly affected by it.
What I'm asking is a tactic. It's not, what is the tactic that you follow? Because you are attacking a problem and you have to have a tactic. Otherwise, you will be lost. You will be doing this, you will be doing that, etc. If you have a system, if you really want to apply yourself in that case and give it 2 hours, you want to really help this individual, make him healthy, cure him, and you have the time to apply yourself.
I would take the strongest symptoms from the mentals, generals and locals, and I would combine on those. I'd like 3 strong mentals, 3 strong generals, combine, see where I get something out of that. And then with the last 3, 4 remedies I come look for the right essence that fits into that, out of the materia medica.
Yeah, more or less you have said, but it's not it's not quite clear. Now I'll say the same things, but perhaps more clearly. With what you have to do first in such case, since there are strong symptoms, you have to take all the symptoms and repertorize and find whether there is a remedy that comes through the whole of the symptomatology. That's number 1 you have to do. So all symptoms, mental, emotional, general, local, desires, aversions. There is a remedy that comes through? You doubt. But here we are talking about the tactic. Since you have strong symptoms on all these levels, you take these strong symptoms and see if there is any remedy that comes through. If there is no remedy that comes through, then what you can do is divide your case into departments, you see. The one is headaches and local symptomatology. Headaches plus vertigo, etc. And see, if you repertorize the headache and vertigo symptoms, there is a remedy that covers the whole thing. It might be the remedy. Another possibility is to ignore these local symptoms and take only the general plus the mentals. There is a remedy that comes through here. Then what about, does it cover some of the headaches? Yes, maybe that is the one. But if there is no remedy that comes general and mental, it's a confusion if you combine it with that also. There is no remedy. Then what you have to go is essence. Essence. Then finally, ignore general symptoms, ignore even the mental symptoms repertory-wise, ignore the headaches, and go to essence. The essence is that remedy. Then we may see some of this symptomatology cover it a little bit, perhaps, not much, or some of these general symptoms, desires, aversions, and mentals also cover it. Most probably the mentals will be covered by essence. So this is the tactic. First, you go right through the case to see if there is something that comes through. It's covering local, general, mental, everything, essence, everything. So you don't need any more. But you can, sometimes you have to the mental or the general symptoms may be lacking in many cases. You will have only this portion of the case, the local symptoms. So you have to work with that. And you have one general or two general symptoms. You come up with a remedy. Does this remedy covers the one or two symptoms of generalities that this person has? Yes. You proceed. But sometimes going to the local symptoms, there is a mix-up completely. You give up that section of the case. Say forget it. Go and see general and mental. General and mental gives you the impression of natrum muriaticum. Oh, you got an idea now. You go back to the locals. Does it cover some? It covers enough or a little bit, but it is strong, the general and mental. And you go and give it. And then sometimes also here is a mix-up. Then, but it gives you an impression, it gives you the idea of a remedy. Scipia, lachesis, ioschiamos. But the local symptoms do not tally. You cannot find it in the repertory. It doesn't matter, because this is strong. The local symptoms do not point out to a particular remedy. Therefore, you go with essence. But if, in another case, I tell you, I know, this is the most difficult part in... if in another case, the essence contradicts the local. That means the essence and the local do not go together. On the contrary, there are symptomatology. Here is a knee, a pain in the knee, which is ameliorated by very cold water. And here the essence comes rastox. You should forget it because of that.
You should forget.
You should forget. You didn't understand?
Yes.
There is some lady who has not understood. If the essence here, you know, rastox is ameliorated by cold or by warm. Can you tell me? You don't know. That's why you cannot follow. Rastox is aggravated very much by cold. very much aggravated. The pains of Rostock, if you put it in cold, especially cold water, it will be excruciating. And that is common knowledge, and that is why we say these local symptoms contraindicates Rostock-Sonessence. So you better search for another remedy that will cover this. If you have a strong keynote of a remedy, now searching, you may find nothing else but one or two strong keynotes, local keynotes. And you search here and there is no remedy. You search there, there is no remedy. You search on general local symptoms, no remedy. Then that is the time when you prescribe one keynote.
George, if the essence is very strong, I mean, that example is one particular one where one
yes.
would think of Rostock. But in other situations, maybe you would give the essence.
You would give the essence, yes, if it is not as obvious as that. If the essence is strong, but the essence always, you have to have in mind, it's a matter of judgment. Huh? You see this case, we proceed up to a certain point yesterday, you say Ignatia, Staphysagria, maybe Mercury also. It's a matter of judgment. When I show the whole case, then, yes, this is Mercury. But up to a certain point, the essence is a matter of judgment. You judge that is this essence. Yes?
When you say judgment, do you imply intuition? Or something more complex?
It's a good question. Yes. It appears sometimes to be a kind of intuition involved, which I don't think that is true. In homeopathy, there is no intuition. There is a lot of knowledge which has been accumulated in the brain, and simply the brain analyzes very quickly the facts like the computer and says, oh, that looks like Mercury. Because it takes fast and analyzes fast, it doesn't mean it's intuition. The intuition, I mean, take a person outside from the street, bring him, say, you have a catalog with remedies. You hear him talking, now which remedy? Point out, this is intuition. This is intuition. But here, I don't think it's intuition. I don't know if you know, all of you, that the first 6 years I have been studying for 12 years a day, for 12 hours a day, including weekends. Of course, I do not say that because to say that I did something which is extraordinary, no, because I liked it. It was not something that I could do without liking it very much. And in South Africa, where I used to stay the first 4 years of, I'm talking about, the man whom I used to stay with was an Italian. So one day he came and says, Mr. George, it was Sunday evening. Yes, since Sunday after Sunday, you will not go out, stay there and study. Saturday, Sunday, and then all the other days I was working as a civil engineer, and I had a lot of time to study in my work. So he came and asked me, why didn't I go out? He says, why don't you go out? I see you always in your room and studying. He was worried. So I said, no, I like it, it's okay. And why don't you go to a cinema, something like that? I said, no, it's okay. He was not happy with my answers, no, it's okay. He said, you know why I tell you that? Because in my village from where I come in Italy, there was a man like you sitting there, studying all day, then eventually he ended up in the insane asylum. So you better go out before you go insane with studying.
Good point.
I just wanted to tell you that my pleasure was so great in studying that I needed no other entertainment. It was my entertainment. I do not say that I studied all these hours to say, yes, I have done something. No, I have not done anything. I just entertained myself for 12 hours a day. But this knowledge came later on as a knowledge which looked like intuition. It was not intuition, it was studying, that the information was there and I could sort out quickly, sort of. This is something which is attainable by anybody, and I hope to make my students, and I believe this is my biggest ambition, that my students will become better than me. And I'm sure my students will become better than I am, even studying less. Much less, I don't know. But studying less, I believe that they will become better by studying less. They don't need so much study. Why? Because I impart the knowledge to which I arrived, and so therefore they have the benefit. I did not have the benefit of any teacher to tell me a few things. I had many questions like everybody, and I would go from one to the other and I will ask and I will get no answers. You see, and I had to clarify things myself. That took a long time. It took a long time to discover Mancinella and to prescribe. It took a long time agaricus. I will not prescribe agaricus. I did not know on what to prescribe. Twitching. Sometimes I will see twitching and I give it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work. But the real agaricus state, it was absolutely unknown. The Vithoulkas case. I gave it a few times in the beginning, it was just on small keynotes. I did not know anything. When I discovered these remedies, then, and my students will give it. And you see beautiful cures. So in this case, now back to that case, I will give you a few minutes to look in your repertory. This is a case that was brought in the class in Athens. This case was brought in class in the Athens, and I said, okay, George read it for the first time to me because he had just taken it, like you hear it now, as he read it to you, and then all the students in Athens, they will quickly decide on what is the remedy. We decided. Yes? Yes?
I'm puzzled about this case because a lot of these symptoms are very strong.
Yes.
The person prescribed didn't seem to have the energy to be able to give over symptoms to indicate the degree of severity. I would have thought it didn't come out as strong as this. The process of giving this information would have given them a far worse headache than usual. I can't see how it's going to distract them.
That's a question for George.
Yeah, well, as in all case taking, you have different types of people, so in terms of grading symptoms, you have to gauge the nature of the response with the vitality of the individual. For instance, in a case like I can remember George talking about somebody who's just sitting there, everybody's not an argentum nitrogen where you probably have, if you were grading according to the strength of the response, everything would be 3 marks maybe. But you could have somebody else who's totally wiped out. You ask them a question, they say, yes, I have that. Do you like salt? Yes, I like that. Do you like sweets? No, I don't like sweets. No. How are you about milk? Oh, I drink a good amount of milk. That's desire milk 3 times. So you do the same thing with this guy.
Well, I'll tell you now. I'll tell you the what we gave and the result.
He was given Helleborus 50M and came back in 1 month.
And he says, denies any aggravation of headache. The headache denies any aggravation of headache. Says there was nothing. The headache is constant and with varying degrees of intensity, as we said. The severe spells are of same intensity. No suggestion of even a gradual improvement. Cannot well describe the headache. Says it's in different locations, varying types of pain. Heavy and trouble holding up his head still. cannot hold up his head. Slow, sluggish, very terse, brief answers. Just sits there. Headache worse in the night 3 times. When bed prevents sleep. When bed prevents sleep, he cannot sleep. Worse lying down 2.5 times. Better sitting once. Better if not concentrating. Headaches is worse and is aggravated by having to think and describe his symptoms. Closes eyes and looks tired. Sometimes wrinkles forehead. Quickly gives up. Does not make great effort. Face will flush a darkish red when thinks, underlined 3 times. Thinks of problems, his family, and everything what he thinks aggravates the headache. Vertigo accompanies mental exertion 3 times, with headaches also. He does not say that he does not admit any amelioration from closing eyes now. He said before, in the first interview, he said, when I close my eyes, it's better. Now he says, no, it's not better. Misses his family, underlined 3 times. Not so much homesickness. He just misses his family. Worries about failure in school. What will be in the future? Underlined 3 times. Can't study due to headaches. Underlined 3 times. Partially closes lids and flutters. Headache, better physical activity 2 times. Has physical energy, but when headache is bad, is worse any kind of exertion 2.5 times. No anxiety about health, more anxiety for future, since he cannot study. Underline twice. Since he cannot study, he has anxiety. Sleepy on waking, twice. Sleepy much in day, twice. Headache worse after sleep, twice. Sleeps on right side, twice. Much trouble studying when due to distraction, daydreams, and mental fatigue. Says when headache bad, sometimes a sense of intoxication. Sometimes has a sense of intoxication with headache. Headache worse conversation, twice. Angry when tries to concentrate and headache comes, 3 times, underlined. Headache worse warmth, generally worse warm. With headache is angry, averse conversation, desires to be alone 3 times, and he wants to move very slowly. Underline 3 times, all of this. And is sensitive to noise 2.5 times. Thirsty twice, sad twice, relatively indifferent to sex, can't stand tight things around neck 3 times. Dislike hot sun 1.5 times. Desires to rub eyes as they often itch twice. Averse alcoholic drinks. Physical examination. Cranial nerves intact. DTRs normal. You can make your cerebral signs normal.
That's the physical exam.
Yeah. Finding pounds, flushed, sensation normal. Blood pressure 104 by 54. 104 by 54 minima. Has a low blood pressure. Low blood pressure, especially the minima. Well.
You left one other little fact. I thought I wrote it, but he said he was still sad at the same intensity, but suicidal thoughts didn't come Gazal.
Oh, yeah. Said twice, no suicidal thoughts, yes. No effect on music. No effect on music. Okay to wind, thirsty, yes. What's the remedy? What are you going to do now?
Look again.
Look again from the beginning. Take the second interview as more important, and where it differs, and what are you going to do, and what are you going to give. After this remedy, you can tell them because it's not written.
Just because I called him on the phone.
Oh yeah, you called him on the phone before we come in here, yeah. Yes?
Well, if I'd taken the case and I'd got this feedback, I would have thought I've got the wrong remedy.
Yeah.
I would have looked again at the beginning of
Yeah. Has the remedy changed the case? Has not touched the case at all. Has not changed the case. So, what are you going to do? Suggest now we go to Gelsemium, or there is lycosis because there's this tightness, or what? Is any other remedy except of this, or what you will prescribe next? What you will do next? What you will do next? You don't know. Robert?
Still reluctant to return that nothing's happened. I still think the suicidal thoughts not as often make me just a little bit dubious whether there's Helleborus kind of remedy I'm used to,
Yeah.
to the next. So
Patrick?
I think after a month it's too soon to say I'd wait.
What?
I'll wait longer.
Wait longer. Jeremy? Wait.
I think I'd wait too.
Yes, you?
I think I'd wait too.
You wait?
I'm going to wait because you've prescribed.
Yes?
Waiting is a possibility, but only after repertorising again.
Yes.
If the repertorising brings out something different.
Yes.
If it brings out the same,
Yes.
it's not a way.
Yes. We have given Helleborus. And does anybody has Helleborus in Kent's repertory? Is it a good prescription for such a case with Helleborus? You have Kent's. With such a feedback, you will be justified to prescribe another remedy.
I read up Helleborus earlier this afternoon because I thought we'd be doing it today because of your list at the beginning of the week. So when we started doing this case, I thought, oh, I bet this case is going to be Helleborus. So I excluded it from my mind. Except that I did read it out and I couldn't relate it. Except that I did read it out and I couldn't relate it to the case at all.
You couldn't relate
What
it?
happened was that I read it up at the beginning because I thought this is bound to be a Helleborus case because we're going to do that remedy next.
Yes.
And when I read it,
Yes.
I couldn't relate it to the case.
You couldn't relate it.
No, I
what are you studying?
I'm looking at
Yes, you're looking at Helleborus on Kent?
no, this is Helleborus.
And there's a Kent. Did you find anything that can
first paragraph says, in all complaints of Helleborus, stupefaction occurs in greater or less degree. Sometimes it is a complete stupor, sometimes partial, always stupefaction and sluggishness. Useful in affections of brain, spinal cord, and general nervous system and mind, but especially in acute inflammatory disease of the brain and spinal cord and the meninges.
We do not have any inflammation here, correct? No inflammation and no meninges involved. What we have? The stupefaction, what he describes, is that can tally with the case? Stupefaction, sluggishness of mind? Can tally. Not the inflammation, not the peripheral system also. Read a little bit more.
Delirium is not common when present it is muttering. In many instances, very late in the disease, the patient can be roused up and he will act as if he were attempting to think, as if he were attempting to answer, attempting to move, but he simply stares at the doctor with eyes partly open with a dazed expression on his face and picks his finger ends. When questioned, the Helleborus patient is not able to tell you what he has in mind unless considerably aroused and agitated. But when so aroused, he will talk about spirits or say that he sees devils. He sees in his imagination those images that he has read about or even pictured as a devil with horns and tail. It has a peculiar quasi-hysterical condition, a form of insanity. She imagines she has sinned away her day of grace. In like Orem, she believes that she is doing wrong, that she is committing an unpardonable sin.
Okay, give it to me because we don't. It does not apply to the case. This. When able to be about, the patient appears to be sad because he sits and says nothing and seems to be in an awful mood. But there is not that great lamentation with walking the floor and wringing the hands that we find in Orem. It's an apathetic state. Appears sad and melancholy, whereas perhaps she does a little thinking. Like Natrum Muriaticum, the complaints are aggravated by consolation. Well, from my experience on Helleborus, this is a typical case of Helleborus. So if you remember it, you get a stage of Helleborus which is very typical of Helleborus state. That sluggishness, that exactly how he describes, it's very difficult for me to reproduce, but what he described as a person with all his difficulties in receiving the stimulus from the question and then try to answer it back. This whole process, you know, in the repertory it says answers, reflects long. You know, you ask a question and I think so. You know, that's the answer. And this type of headache, this stupefied headache, this stupefaction, there are hints in our Materia Medica. You will not, in Materia Medica, you cannot find description of all the cases that you will find, the variations of the different cases. You get the general idea, the difficulty, there is a stupefaction and the difficulty in communicating. So in my Materia Medica, what I will write is, Helleborus seems to interrupt communications. Communication in its general sense. It seems to stupefy that portion of the brain
that should take the information from the outside and through the senses, what hears, what comes to the vision, and process it and bring it to the understanding of the person. There is a slowness in that process. You see, what did I hear? What is going on? And then comes to the mind, to the, and then the process of going back the information, going out. That's very difficult. Well, Hahnemann, in his provings, he has written a condition of Helleborus, a condition where, with sight unimpaired, that means they see the whole form. Nothing is seen very fully. Can you understand that with sight unimpaired, nothing can be seen very fully. Can you understand this? Can you imagine what it is? You have to imagine, use your imagination. They see, and yet they do not see very fully. The eyesight, the functioning of the eye is there, and they see there. But what they see, the interpretation of the form in which they see, does not penetrate through the nerves to the portion of the brain that interprets this idol, what's called this image, and therefore they cannot see. They hear. You say, what is your name? They hear everything. What is your name? But they seem that they cannot hear, or the process is very slow. What is my name? What is my name? Yes, it's my name. George. George comes the answer. See? With the hearing perfectly sound, nothing is heard distinctly. That is the idea that the person feels, the prover. With perfectly constituted gustatory organs, everything seems to have lost its taste. You see, a state, he describes here, the prover describes a state. It's not at all like Helleborus. Just this gives us hints of what we shall find eventually in Helleborus cases. And this, what you just heard, it is a state of Helleborus. You see that difficulty in communication, difficulty in perceiving and giving answers. He said, they do like that. Oh, I have my headache, my vertigo, you know. Later on, it will become another state. I will try to describe to you. The communication awareness of the present situation is tremendously slow or damaged. Communication with the present situation. With present situation, you are in front of me, and there is a situation here where I do not perceive what really happens. Can you understand the state of mind? Somebody is moving there to see me because he cannot see me, and he moves like that. And then eyes see that movement. They cannot interpret what's going on, or it takes long time to interpret. Oh, she has moved in order to be able to see me because she could not see me. There was a tall man in front of her. This process, for a person who is aware, is automatic. You see, it's automatic. For Helleborus, she sees this movement. Oh, the movement, yes. What happened? Oh, yes, this. Huh? Oh, yes, that. You see, the slowness, the stupefaction that is described in the books. It comes through in that case. And this is only still a mild state of Helleborus. Helleborus is going to go into other states which are much, much worse.
I say here, yet if you observe closely, you will see in his eyes the effort he is making to answer you as correctly as possible. He's making an effort. He's making an effort to answer you, but the mind does not help. And in the beginning stages, I say there is almost a tinge of fright in his eyes. This tinge of fright in later stages will become tremendous, tremendous fright in his eyes. And I will try to describe the condition later. Also, the Helleborus mind is not excited by the usual stimulations of the environment, whether from ideas or pictures, and therefore the mind remains empty, without ideas, without the possibility of reflection. This is very interesting. You see, when you see the sun in the morning, you reflect in your eye, in your mind. There is a kind of reflection. You see, the sun is coming, another day. You know, all this kind is for Helleborus is lost, like the taste. He says the taste is lost. You put a very delicacy in his mouth, makes no difference. You see a beautiful sun, makes no difference. There is a situation where there is tremendous agony or tremendous disturbance in the environment, makes no difference. You see, there should be a case where there should be great joy. There's no difference. It is an apathetic state, you could say. It's a state where the brain does not work, the memory does not hold, does not remember. Communication is cut off also with the past. And Hahnemann, in his provings, he says the past is forgotten or little remembered. You will see later on in the pathology of Helleborus states. You will ask the person, where did you come from? I mean, you came from your home state, or you were in a friend. Past, completely forgotten, the immediate past. We're not talking about 10 years ago. Never mind about that. The immediate past. Where did I come from? My home? What did you ask? My home. I don't know. You know, that state. Eventually, this much worse situation that this boy was. If they say, I forget immediately what I have just heard, they just hear something, and the whole sentence, the whole idea vanishes. Or they read something, and they cannot retain any of the ideas which are there. And I have a phrase here which that which is a whole in man breaks down under Helleborus into pieces and cannot be coordinated and work together. Breaks down into pieces, like pieces, and cannot be coordinated. There seems to be no power to coordinate the feet, the hands, the thoughts, the feelings. Again, this is described in Hering, diminished power of mind over body. That means they cannot give an order to the hand to move or to the leg to move. Kant says the muscle will not act, they will not obey the will. when the pathology has progressed, the idea is that almost every part of the body is working independently. It cannot bring a whole body together. That's a terrifying feeling. It's an agonizing situation. It's not a symbol, we describe it like that now. When you live such situation, when you see people living in such situation, the agony that comes through is a terrifying agony. Also, he makes motions which are kind of choreic motions, that motions that they have no meaning. Like one who is absent-minded and moves without any reason for moving. So therefore, Helleborus will be indicated in epilepsy, where we have movements, especially when consciousness is not left the person. Therefore, it is a passive, the idea of passiveness, passive remedy, apathetic, indifferent. And when they are in that state, in these states in which this boy are still in the beginning stages, an overstimulation. It means giving him a kind of shock almost, then the body seems to work. You see the blood pressure is low, the pulse is low, the mind is low. You overstimulate and seems to function for a while, seems to function better and to feel better in himself. If you are very angry with him, you shout to him very suddenly, he will come back to himself and he will act better for a while. Well, now they come to another state in which that's a very difficult state to describe, but I shall try as much as I can, where they feel all this inside falling apart, but together with a feeling of tremendous, you see, the idea is that they cannot tell, they cannot explain at that moment what it is. A tremendous something which is coming. It's not a bad premonition or something bad will happen. It's not that. It's something which is coming with a sense of terror inside. Terror, I would say. Not agony, more than agony, it's terror. And then they feel as if do not exist. They do not exist, as if they are dead. Tremendous anguish, anxiety, cannot express what is happening. What is happening with you? It cannot express. They say, I do not know if, and then a feeling of terror comes through you in their eyes. You see, now what happens? Am I in a dream or you know this? This is not sign, Ignacia sign. You know, it's another. It's not that. It's not that. It is. Now, something is going to come about. You feel now that you have in front of you a very progress state mentally. You know, it's going to break up at any moment, and then you say, what happened to you? What happened? I mean, how you feel? You know, this you get as a reaction, to your. And then maybe we'll say, I do not know who am I. I do not understand. What do you don't understand? Huh? You get a little bit of the idea. You get the impression that if you don't do something quickly tonight, tomorrow is going to be in the insane asylum. There's no possibility that she will survive a few hours of that agony, of that state of mind. And then it comes out with phrases like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my mind. You see, it's not the description of the state. It is the state itself that comes through. It's not the description. You see, I'm afraid, sometimes I'm afraid I'm going to lose my mind. It's another description altogether when I say that. I have some fear. You see, it's difficult for me to go into states, other remedies, when I try to live up to that state, and so just try to get this. I'll make the differential diagnosis later. And then you look at the patient, and the patient is really holding on to you. You're going to help me, but they don't say you're going to help me. They look at you, and you feel the impression that they almost hold into you. They want to hold you. They want to hold your hand. Save me, save me. You're going to help. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. You know, you get this without words. You get these feelings. You see, since when are you in that state? They try to remember. The past is completely forgotten. They cannot tell you. It's 2 days, 3 days, now 5 days. When they came into that state, if they are by themselves in the consulting room, it's very doubtful whether they will be able to tell you. It is a terrible state of mind to see. You ask, what do you feel? And then you feel perhaps difficult. You feel your mind is going crazy. Is the agony there? Yes, I feel that also. But it is the state. It's not the words. Words, they're not forthcoming. They're not. Sometimes there will come some words. And this idea, it's very peculiar to Helleborus, that looks as if she wants to say thank you to the doctors. Thank you, you have saved my life. You have not saved because the state is there and you don't know, maybe you prescribe in other remedies. But the idea is that you get the feeling that you are the God. Now I have no other hope, you are my hope, you are going to help me. And the idea that she wants to say thank you without saying it. Actually, when I described that state to the doctor, doctor was with me in a case like that in Helleborus. So I said, okay, Helleborus 50M, give it and go. And I went out, and then she stayed a little bit more with the patient. And I came back, to the doctor, and I said, okay, you see that? That's a Helleborus state. This is what she was doing with her eyes. Did you understand what she was saying? No, I did not understand. She was saying, I want to thank you. I want to thank you. But she could not say in words. She said, my God, she said, when you left, she said, I want to thank him, and I don't know how. She expressed that to the doctor. It was very, I mean, things like that happen, of course, frequently when you go into the states and you understand more and more the situation. You understand what the other person feels. There is another expression. It looks you like a dog which is absolutely devoted to you, and you have hit the dog, and then it looks, I mean, exactly like the bitten dog looks his master. That is the idea you get. Then it is a state which can reach where the brain is damaged through, for instance, bad nourishment, like in severe disorders of the blood, like leukemia, in the leukemia state, where you will have the last stages of leukemia, where the brain has been affected, especially if the person has taken what's called this chemotherapy. The brain can be affected and can bring about a Helleborus state. That Helleborus state is the worst then. Then just remember hell and no Eborus, just hell. The idea of hell, exactly that idea, being in hell. And then what happens? They try to lie down, and as soon as they lie down, they come up with a tremendous anxiety. They don't know what's happening to them. They cannot even say, help me. They cannot, and they try to lie down. They walk up and down. They walk up and down, and they don't know what's going on. And you see the agony, you see the terrifying feelings which are coming out. And I said, my God, you look, you're terrified by this tremendous suffering. There is no other remedy in our materia medica which has more suffering. If somebody goes into Helleborus state, he is going into hell. I mean, if you have any idea of what can be that feeling where you see no hope of getting away from that state, it's like, how can I describe it? You have to see it again and again happening, and then to experience that and to see the feeling of the person. I mean, what I perform is very little in what really, actuality happens. And that restlessness, then, he cannot rest at all. He lies down, he gets up, he exhausted, lies down, and then the agony. I don't know what's wrong with me, I don't know. You know, that kind of thing. Lies down. Gets up again. Yeah. Unless you know Helleborus, forget it. You look at it, you say, bring Valium, bring Largactil, bring anything. I mean, nothing will help as Helleborus. If you know that state, you can receive the state, you can understand. Helleborus is going to act and is going to help that person. And I can tell you, the relief of such states is something unspeakable. I mean, you have to live the cases to know them. Because they speak sometimes, because we don't have experience on big cases, and sometimes I'm going to give you all these cases. Last stage cases where they are recovered, and they've gone into recovery because of Helleborus and because of other remedies. Such states, they do not become well with one remedy, of course. You take them away from that state with Helleborus, then they go into other states, etc. They have a whole process. Yes, somebody wanted to ask something? Yes?
I just wondered if you could explain the restlessness and the stupefaction.
Yes, the restlessness also must come about. You see, it says it rolls head into the pillow. It goes like that. This is not just rolling the head. It is the agony together with the head. You see? This is the kind.
Do you have to have the restlessness there to deal with the...
In the end stages where I'm talking about, there is no quietness. What's the opposite of being quiet, or being serene, or being calm? What is the opposite state? Turmoil. Well, there is no word to describe. I can tell you there is no word to describe the state of Helleborus. No other remedy. No aurum, no lachesis, no phosphoric acid, none of these remedies can come close to what a Helleborus state can be, as far as the agony. And then you remember this. I mean, this is the stupefaction. Now, you have the stupefaction. You saw this boy, what he was doing. It was little hints about the remedy. When I heard the case, I said, hey, this is Helleborus, this is Helleborus. So, the whole class, I mean, my Greek students have listened to Helleborus, but not carefully enough, you see, so they could not recognize. I don't think, was anybody recognizing? No, I think everybody was saying more or less Gelsemium and, these remedies. So, Helleborus. So, George gave it to him, and that was the result, the feedback I read you. So George said, forget it, give another remedy quickly. If not worse, it's exactly the same state. I said, my God, I mean, this is so typical Helleborus case. And nothing, you see, only the suicidal thoughts are not there. Yes, I think I remember you telling me that, because you gave me the feedback by mouth. I said, wait. Now you tell what happened the next month.
So I called up with this school about 3.5 weeks after this visit, so almost 2 months. And I happened to get first a friend saying I wanted to talk to him, and the friend, I said, I'm Dr. Guess I wanted to find out about how Miles is doing. And he says, well, I'll get him. He says, but he's doing very well. Very well. So he says, wait a minute, the principal wants to talk to you, And so the principal comes and says, oh, I'm so glad for what you've done for him, It's like, so much better. And so finally I get him and the exam, so I'm going to be going to England. It sounded very, very positive.
Do you know when the improvement began?
They must have begun at least 5 weeks. 5 weeks later than the remedy. And what you could see only was a little bit of no suicidal thoughts. It's not. Another thing I want to talk about: suicide with Helleborus. Helleborus. Okay, we'll have an interval immediately. A Helleborus. It's not a matter of deciding on suicide. The state is such a hell state that it cannot but bring about suicide. I mean, it's so terrible. I have seen a case of asthma in America. Well, I was in America, suppressed by pluralistic homeopathy. And the asthma had gone, and a state of that type was there. Where came a woman, she was almost totally crazy. She would go about and say, save me, save me. What it is, and not what I described you. And we saw this case with Bill. And I sat there and I watched for a while. She could not say and could not give any symptomatology, as you know. I said, Helleborus, then give it to her. So I gave it and I left. And sure enough, the asthma came back. The mental state went away, and the asthma came back. She was away from San Francisco. She was quite far. She could not go to Bill Gray, and she went to another homeopath. He treated the asthma. The asthma went away, and the person committed suicide. It's not a state where you can tolerate for very long. It's not a matter of decision. It's a matter of whether you can really take so much suffering for how many hours or for how many days. It's a terrible state. Yes?
Could it be used in senility? Could you get this sort of state in senility?
Most probably, I have not given, but most probably it's senility, it's meningitis, it's meningoencephalitis. You will see such states where blood, also when the blood is not giving blood to the brain and the brain becomes pieces, all in pieces. Yes, Willie?
I was going to say that I've often seen this state in senile, what's called senile dementia. You also get this sense of terror inside the eyes, and also the pleading. Yeah, the pleading. It's interesting to try. It's interesting to try to see the effect. I have not seen it myself in senility, but I'm sure it's going to act because it's, yes?
Can it come on through a bad birth, with being born with forceps?
Yes. And no, I cannot say that. I cannot say because of injury on the brain you give Helleborus. I cannot say. Unless we have that kind of that stupefaction, that slowing down of process, this communication does not go through. Inside and outside information is very difficult to process and very difficult. I mean, you see these ideas, and then it comes out, the breaking down, I cannot anymore, I cannot retain as a whole my body, and then etc., etc. It goes into these last stages. So you like to have a...
on the case? The one thing that's not clear to me in the case is why there's so many underlines. The symptoms were very strong coming out on all the levels, 3 underlines, 2.5, 2, and it didn't seem typical for a Helleborus.
Yeah. George gave already an answer to that. He said, it's correct the answer, when you have a person who relatively answers on a low basis, whatever it makes it a little bit stronger, then you underline. It's a relative underline. A relative underline concerning the person himself.
Yeah.
I seem to remember you said once that this state may be brought on by emotional shock. Is this something?
Yes, this can be by an emotional shock, can be brought about by an emotional shock.
And how do you think that this state was brought about in this particular case?
I think this boy must have been Helleborus constitutionally, and then he tried to pass the examinations. He failed the first time, and then his family was paying for him to, and then he felt gratitude for them, but he could not satisfy them. Then he failed the second time. Once he failed the second time, then that shock maximized the state of Helleborus. That state of Helleborus that was dormant there was coming up, but it was a Helleborus. It was a constitutional Helleborus, if you call it. I believe that this boy is going to be helped very deeply, and is going to be well for a long time, and is going to be helped on a long run basis. It's not a remedy. So it was already Helleborus brought about by the effort he made to read, but Helleborus cannot read, cannot remember what he's reading. He says something, an expression. I prefer.
I would rather see the devil than the book.
I would rather see the devil than the book. Also, I have not seen also in the books it says something about the devil. How he says it?
Sees the devil in his horns.
He's the devil?
Hallucinates the devil.
Oh, hallucinates the devil, yeah. I have not seen that.
You said when you started it was going to do differential diagnosis.
Yes.
Will you do that after the break? Talk about some other remedy.